Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
It was very odd, though. For people who didn't see it, he basically walked backwards towards the cage and then just sort of fell over.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've never seen something like that. Usually you see it with a liver shot or something, right? Like
Pete Sell and Scott Smith. Remember that fight?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was a great fight.
Yeah, it was strange. Great fight though. It definitely lived up to what everyone thought it was going to be, and you know how often sometimes it gets so hyped up that then it's like, oh, it was a dud, right? But that was a good fight.
Great fight to start at the pay-per-view. Barbosa looked great. We're sort of waiting for one of these performances from him where you get a finish and you can start talking about him being a contender. This is a huge win for him. I spoke to him today. He's saying he's looking to come back probably late, in the fall, maybe late August, September. Division could look different by then. Maybe that's a good time to do him and Calvin Kattar, right? Calvin Kattar might be ready to go by then. That's an option.
Maybe.
You got Josh Emmett. There's a lot of good fighters there in there. You've got Korean Zombie and Dan Ige. Obviously, if Zombie wins that, maybe that's an option for him as well. And I threw the name Zabit out there just for the heck of it. Zabit right now is kind of retired. Like he's saying, like he's out of the rankings. There's some issues with the UFC. They used to train together, Jim, but I asked him, I said, is that a fight you'd be open to? He says, absolutely. So that there's a lot of options there for Barbosa. It's good to be in the Barbosa business. This week
it's good because he gets to sit and watch, right? Because all these fights are going to unfold. And then, one of them is going to fall into his lap. Yeah.
No, it's great to be in his position here. We're waiting a few more minutes here for Andrea. She'll be hopping on and joining us momentarily. Some other highlights of the card. I just wanted to bring this up as well. How about Andre Muniz breaking Jacare Souza's arm? Like, of all ways for Jacare to lose, submission, his arm gets broken. I mean, that's just crazy. That's like what Fluffy did to his opponent as well. Like, same sort of thing. Like, if you thought of an outcome, that wouldn't have been the most, the one that would be at the forefront.
I was more like, wow, with Jacare's demeanor after it happened. He didn't even flinch.
Yeah.
It was as if he stubbed a toe,
Yeah, I know.
I mean, because it broke above the elbow, right? Like, so that's a nasty one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's another thing, though. I mean, here we go again, right? Jacare's lost, 7 of 8? 7 of 9 I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been around forever. I mean, he's another guy that's probably on the way out. I mean, you've seen what's been going on lately. All those people that are in the late 30s making a lot of money and are on a very, very bad skid, non-competitive skid.
No, it's true. And yeah, you're out with the old and with the new. I mean, that's why they did the matchup, right? Muniz, young guy, Brazilian, like they're going to use Jacare as sort of the guy to build off of as well. And it's crazy. Jacare will go down, in my opinion, as one of the best middleweights to never get a title shot. I mean, there were opportunities, I think, where he should have fought for it.
So close,
very close. I remember he fought Whitaker and he lost. He lost to Gat. There was a couple key fights where had he won those, it would have been a little bit different. But it's still crazy to me. And I love the guy. Don't get me wrong, but it's crazy to me that Michael Bisping never had to fight like Jacare or Yoel Romero. That's kind of crazy because they were both high level guys at the time. So
that's true. You never know what the UFC is going to do.
Yes. No, exactly. There's a lot of twists and turns there. What else do we got here as far as other stuff going on? And we got the Bellator event on Friday. Good card there. Chris Cyborg going to be rematching Leslie Smith. What else we got?
That'll be over quick.
I know. I look, I can admit this, even as someone who does a podcast with Chris every week, like it's not a very appealing fight to me. Like I want to see, I think the Julia Budd rematch would be interesting. Julia is a true featherweight. She was their champion for a while. Julia's won a couple fights since then. That makes sense. I still want to see Kayla Harrison make her way over to Bellator at some point and fight Cyborg. Like, people are talking about her going to the UFC. I get that, but it's like the UFC is barely holding on by a thread with their 45 division. Kayla's not going to 135. I would look at Bellator if I were her because there's actual featherweights in that weight class.
Yeah, 100%. The Kayla Harrison thing is kind of like, I don't know. She's good. Obviously, she has talent, all of those things. But let's be honest, James. She's fighting girls out of the crowd. She's going to fight Larissa Pacheco again for the third time. Like, she's 9-0, and 3 of those fights are against her. I mean, let's be honest. She's not fighting anyone that's going to even remotely give her a hard time. And Larissa Pacheco is not very good, and she's taken her to a decision, I think,
Yeah, she's already lost, 2 times, I think, to her already? Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a slight. It's just like you haven't fought anyone. Mm-hmm. Does she have the talent? Yes, she has talent. But she's fought no one.
Well, part of that though is like, who are you going to get to fight her?
Well,
like
of
they had
course.
to get Sarah Kaufman, to fight
Right,
her.
but
Like
it's more of the I get it, it's just err on the side of the fence of, are you arrogant or are you confident, right? Like she's starting to float into the arrogant sign, and it's like, dude, you haven't fought anyone. You can't go out and say that you're the best female athlete, fighter in the world, and no one can compete with me and this and that. It's like, come on, just be humble.
You know what? I agree with you, by the way, but don't you think that's an extension of who she's managed by, and that's sort of his
Ollie's
thing?
an idiot. Yeah, Ollie's an idiot, but but it's like, dude, just be humble.
Well, that's the funny thing. Oh, that's all that guy talks about is how we have to be humble. He's the exact opposite of humble. Every time he's on Twitter, he's going off about how all his fighters are the greatest. And look, if you're a manager and you want to pump up your fighters, I get that, but I'm with you there. Like Kayla is not the best female athlete of all time. That's, fans who cover the sport or follow the sport or fans of the sport. No, that's not the case. Is Kayla very good? Yes. But she's not been tested. It's no different than Chimaev. Everyone's talking. You know how many times I get comments on my YouTube videos about, oh, Chimaev's going to be the next champ. Islam Makhachev's going to be the next champ. They haven't fought anyone.
They might be. Let's not hype people up before you need to, right? Like
it's like the Johnny Walker situation, right? Remember when Johnny Walker was knocking guys out in the UFC and everyone's like, this is the guy to give Jones a tough test. Fights Corey Anderson. What happens? He loses in the first round.
Yeah. It's a different level. I'm telling you, like it's not the females for one in the UFC are far different.
Yeah.
And she just hasn't been tested. Does she have physical attributes that are good? 100%.
Yeah.
But let's be honest with who you fought, and let's see how the cards fit, and be humble. You can be confident and humble and still humble, right? Just I don't know. And then Ali, that's just a whole different thing.
Have you ever had any run-ins with him at all? Like, well, I guess none that you can mention on air, but it's because have you actually I was trying to think, have any of your fighters fought any of his guys? I guess when Max Griffin fought that crazy Russian guy, the one that Eric was talking about. I can't remember.
Yeah, fought him, and then Aspen knocked out Yana, who's managed by.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a client as well.
Also, Sajara Eubanks, Aspen beat her twice.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Good point. Well,
it's just yes, but there has been run-ins. Trust me, the guy's not a nice guy. He might do good things, I guess, for the fighter, but holy smokes, that guy is an interesting individual.
Well, there's a list of enemies out there for sure. Like on his, because it's everyone I talk to, either people, like he gets good fights for his fighters. I'll give him that. He's a great manager from that perspective. But from the media standpoint and even fighters and stuff, there's always someone who has a story about him. So it is what it is. But I always like the managers who are like, don't make it about them. It's about the fighters. It shouldn't be, the fighters should promote themselves. The fighters should be doing all that. Leave the management out of that. And that goes for anyone, not just him, but there's other managers out there who try and be like this, super agent, like a Jerry Maguire, what's his name from Entourage, Ari Gold from like, you know what I mean? But that they're trying to be that type. And it's like, it's not about you, dude. It's like this. We talked about this last week with Joshua Fabia. My biggest thing with Joshua, forget about all the wacky stuff him and Diego have been doing. He's making it about him. It's nothing to do with him. It's everything that should be about your client, So
even me, like as a coach, right? I coach high level fighters all over, right? Like it's not about me. And I'm closer to the fighter than a manager is, right? Like, as far as that goes. And I don't even, it's like, dude, who are you? Just do your job, be humble, and enjoy the experience. Like it's crazy. That guy drives me nuts.
I don't know if we'll be talking about it with Andrea. Well, we probably won't have a chance to talk about it with Andrea. And also, we got some questions in the chat. We'll get to those in a bit as we're waiting for Andrea. But I did want to mention quickly, in case we don't have time to talk about it, the card this weekend, Rob Font, Cody Garbrandt. That's a pretty good fight and an interesting one because Rob's actually, I think he opened as the underdog. He's now the favorite. I have Font in that fight for a couple of reasons, but I'm curious to hear your pick on that one because it's, and I know you're close with Uriah, but it's a very interesting fight for Cody especially. Yeah,
I don't know. My thing is I'm hoping Cody can keep his punches straight. He has a tendency to get a little wide and throw from the pockets, and someone like Rob Font is very basic, but his basics are very advanced, and his boxing is very crisp, and he throws down the middle. He has the cardio and the volume behind him. It's a difficult fight, I think, for both of them, of course, right? You're talking about two of the highest level guys there is. And Cody's awesome. He's a good person. He's a great athlete. I just don't know. I don't know if Cody can stay composed and be crisp and have good footwork and not get, too overly aggressive, I think he has a better chance. If that stuff comes out, I think Cody's going to have a hard time with someone like Rob, who will keep it very basic, will keep the volume up, and will be crisp. It's interesting, man. I don't know.
What's interesting to me as well is that, had Rob not beat Marlon Moraes, and let's say he was just coming off the win over Ricky Simone, I probably would pick Cody in this fight. But Rob showed a level above when he finished Marlon Moraes in that first round. And it showed to me a couple things. Number one, that his boxing has gotten, his striking has gotten a lot better. He's very technical. He uses his range really well. He's actually going to have a reach advantage in this fight too. So that's another thing. If Cody can't get on the inside, it could be very interesting here. Because this is a guy we're talking about in Garbrandt who wants to go to flyweight. Font's pretty, he's a decent sized bantamweight as well. So that's
the other thing is I would love to see Cody. People forget Cody was a Division I All-American.
That's right. I know he never uses wrestling. Yeah,
he never uses his wrestling, and I think if he uses that, times it well, even if it's not necessarily one of those things where he constantly takes Rob down, it can change the complexity and dynamic on the feet for Cody and open up some of those big shots if he could just mix it in sometimes. But I don't know if Cody can stay composed and mix some of those things in. I think it will lend very well for him. But I don't know if he will, just because his mentality is, I want to sit and bite down and throw big bombs. And granted, he's got tremendous power, but I don't know if that will be effective against someone like Rob Font.
Here's the other thing. Rob's never been knocked out. Not to say you can't be knocked out. We've seen plenty of fighters, in their time be knocked out, but that is something to consider, that Rob is pretty durable for the most part. And he's fought guys with knockout power like Lineker and, so he's been in there. So that's interesting as well. The other thing I look at too, and I was going to get your perspective on this, Cody's taken a lot of damage. Say what you want about Dillashaw, whether he was on something or not. I mean, it doesn't matter. Either way, he got knocked out in those fights, and he got knocked out by Pedro Munoz, who Pedro's a great striker, but Pedro's not really much of a knockout guy overall. I mean, he's got good striking. He's able to go in there and stand with Edgar. I do wonder if that's something, because let's be honest here, when he fought a Sun Tzu, you knew a Sun Tzu you didn't have to worry about getting knocked out by a Sun Tzu. Let's get real here, right? And a Sun Tzu has been on a bit of a decline lately. So that win was great, but we also got to look at who he's fighting. Rob's got knockout power. So that's interesting, where it's like, if Cody gets reckless like he did against Munoz, could he get caught? We'll see. I think the one thing with Rob is not a lot of wars, not a lot of damage throughout his career. He's been off for a bit because of injuries. So we'll see if that plays into the factor. And the third thing I'll mention, Cody got COVID. I know, certain people, it affects them differently, but I know, for example, Jeff Neal, he's still, when I spoke to her, when he had sort of the post after the Neil Magny fight, he talked about how he still doesn't feel 100% and he thinks that's part of it. So there's a lot of factors at play here that I find very intriguing. And that's why this fight's awesome on Saturday night.
I mean, Cody's awesome. Like, he's such a nice guy. I see him all the time. I hope he does fantastic. I can't really say who's going to win or lose, but I think I gave a good assessment of how I see that fight.
Well, listen, Jim, let's get real for a second here, okay? Because if you want to pick Rob Font, but you're going to see Uriah later, and then he's going to be like, "Why'd you say that?" Man?
It's not. It's so hard to pick.
I know. I'm giving you a hard time.
If Cody can do the things that I mentioned, I think he wins. If he can't do those types of things or isn't willing to do those types of things, I don't think he wins. Right? So it's, we'll see.
How about this one? Co-main event: Cheyenne Yan taking on Carla Esparza. Yan is the favorite right now. This is the girl who's undefeated. She beat Claudia. I always get them mixed up. She beat Claudia Gadea her last fight, and she's looked pretty good. And she absolutely destroyed Carolina a couple fights ago. If you remember that, it was like a complete beatdown. She's very good. I did have a chance to speak with her before the fight. Basically, the UFC's kind of told her and her management, "Hey, you win this fight, you're probably going to fight for the title next." So a lot on the line here. Carla already has a win over Rose, who's the current champ. Carla's got good wrestling. But striking-wise, that's where it gets interesting. If Carla can't get the takedown or can't take the fight to the mat, I give the advantage there in the striking to Yan. So how do you look at this fight? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really good friends with Jiang Yan, her head coach and her boxing coach, Marcus. He's from
she trained at Alpha Male for a bit too. She mentioned that.
She kind of goes there, but her coach, her boxing coach, his name is Marcus. He's in Elk Grove, not Alpha Male, but. It's interesting, right? I'm hoping, if how do you pronounce her last name? Is it Yan?
Cheyenne Yan, I think is how you say it. I have to double check that. It literally, I'm the guy I was on Fight Pass, like watching Buffer do the pronunciation, and I remembered it for the interview, and I've forgotten it. It's one of those,
I'll say Yan. One thing I will say is Coach Marcus. He comes into our gym a lot, and we do a lot of cross training because he has a lot of boxers. He's very good at at footwork, at defending takedowns with footwork. So I think that will come into play. The other thing that I think will come into play is if they trained Jan's muscles appropriately for a very grueling in type fight, if that happens, right? Because oftentimes these athletes they train, but they don't train their muscles appropriately for the fight that they may come across, right? And in this fight, Carla, let's make no bones about it. Carla's going to shoot 400 times, and she's going to continue to do that, right? So, and she's very good at it. But I think that if Jan has prepared in those two facets, and I know Coach Marcus has prepared her very well, especially with her footwork, it will come down to that plus the fact of how is her body conditioned for that type of fight, the up-down type of fight, holding and being able to grapple and then be able to strike, because the muscles fill quick if you're not prepared for that type of fight. And I believe that they have done that, and for that, I'm going to say Jan's going to win. It's not going to be easy because Carla's, good at what she does, but I do believe those two factors will come into play, and I believe that they're prepared for those two things, and because of that, Jan, I think will be victorious.
I like Jan in this fight as well. Something else kind of with Carla is I kind of feel like we see the same Carla every fight. Like there's no real like major evolution here, in her game, she's going to struggle with those top fighters. And we've seen that where she like, for example, I thought she won the fight, but like, how are you struggling with a Randa Marcos? That makes no sense to me. Like, and then you can go out and get another win. Like there's a lot of inconsistency there, but I think Jan's going to win. I think she's going to get the title shot, and it'll be an interesting fight with her and Rose, but we'll see what happens there. The one other fight I wanted to talk about on this card, we spoke about it a few weeks ago, but I wanted to revisit it. Jack Hermansson and Edmund Shabazian. That's such an interesting fight. Jack losing to Marvin Vettori in his last fight. Shabazian getting absolutely destroyed by Derek Brunson. Kind of a big fight here for Edmund because he doesn't want to lose two in a row. He's only 23 years old. How do you look at this fight? Because Hermansson's the favorite right now, as he should be.
I think Jack's gonna win.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna sub him.
Yeah, so do I.
I think it'll take him a little bit, but I think sometime in the second round he's gonna sub him.
Well, and I think people forget, people are quick to look at the last fight against Vettori, but I know Hermansson broke his orbital bone in the first round. He wasn't able to get his footing like after that, basically. And that was a switch up. If you remember, you're supposed to fight Darren Till, then you're supposed to fight Holland, and then he gets Vettori, and it's like fighting him on short notice is kind of tough. But also, like, we forget that he submitted Calvin Gastelum in the first round, like a couple fights ago. Like that's pretty impressive. If you think of all the people that Gastelum was too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very dangerous on the ground. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. And again, it's like, I don't know what the UFC is doing here. I get that you got to, give fighters their ranking or close to the ranking, but it's like you just built up this guy in Shabazian. Why not do the Sean O'Malley treatment? Sean O'Malley's fighting Louis Smolka next, right? He should be fighting a ranked guy. He's not, because they want to keep him getting highlight reel finishes. That's what they should have done with Shabazian here. You're not going to do that against Jack Hermansson. He might win. We've seen Hermansson. You look at the Jared Cannonier fight. Jared Cannonier got in Hermansson's face and got him out of his element and knocked him out. Shabazian could do that, but that's such a small path to victory, whereas Hermansson, like you mentioned, way more tools to win here. So I like Hermansson in that fight as well, but we'll see. We'll see how Edmund does.
I agree.
We can take a few questions here. We're going to wrap things up here pretty quickly. It looks like Andrea is not going to be joining us tonight, unfortunately, but we wish her well with getting that big win there.
I'm going to have to text her now because she's letting me
just
down.
Give her a hard time. Just make her next practice card or something like that. We got Dino in the chat. Who else we got? Actually, we don't have any questions, but if we do have any people want to answer a question or two, we could possibly do that here as we're sort of waiting. What else is interesting coming up here? Felicia Spencer is now fighting Norma Dumont. I think that's a better fight than Danielle Wolf. We talked about that, right? Where Danielle Wolf making her debut against Felicia Spencer. What? It's because they have no fighters.
Yeah, all bad. Dumont would be a more of a test for Felicia, but nonetheless, I think Felicia finishes are probably fairly easy.
Yeah. I think Felicia wins this fight against Norma Dumont as well. I actually liked Aaron Blanchfield against Dumont when they were squared up a little while ago. Of course, that didn't end up happening. Another interesting name I'll just mention on here quickly because we're going to see him return is Yancy Medeiros. Excited to see him back at lightweight. I know he's been off for a while, made a lot of changes. I know he got a new manager. He's been training a lot with Max Holloway for this camp. He's actually done his whole camp in Hawaii for this one. He's taking on Damir Hazovic. I always like watching Yancy fight, right? Like he's an entertaining guy, but let's be honest here. He's got to win. It's the last fight on his contract. We'll see what happens, right?
100%. I'm interested to see how he does. But yeah, Yancy's always been exciting. He's very, he comes from that Diaz camp per se, right? He goes back and forth, and but we'll see. It's been so long since we've seen him fight that it's like you kind of forget.
Well, he fought a year ago. More than a year ago. He fought Lando Venata and lost a decision back before the pandemic. So He's been out for a while, but he said
Yeah.
it was sort of by design. He, was waiting for the right fight, and he had to, go back to the drawing board. And like I said, he has lost 3 in a row to Cerrone at welterweight. He lost to Gregor Gillespie, but I mean, Gregor's he's quite the talent.
Yeah.
And then lost to Lando, and Lando got a nice win last weekend. So actually different weight class. So I think Lando looks a lot better.
45s. Yeah.
Yeah, much better weight class for him. And he's talking about how it wasn't a hard cut either. So we'll see how Yancey looks this Saturday night. We can probably good time to wrap things up. What do you got coming up this week? Any fights going on for you? Any of your?
No, I am taking my daughter to Disneyland. She does not know. She does not know.
I won't say.
So we're flying out on Thursday night.
Oh, cool.
And heading down to Disneyland Friday, Saturday, and coming home Sunday. She has no idea. But she's been doing so dang good in school and dance and everything. So I'm like, what can I do? What can we do? And Disneyland is open, but it's only open at 25%. So it's like, and I grew up in Orange County, right? And there's never been a time where Disneyland's only been open to 25%. So, we got to wear a stupid mask, but it is what it is. It'll be fun. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Good for you. I went to Disneyland when I was a kid because it's not that far away from here. It was great. But you got to get. I guess it won't be an issue for you because it's the 25% capacity, like you said. But I wonder if there's still the fast line. You know, where you pay more and you get front of the line.
You don't.
Did they get rid of that?
They're not even doing it because it's only 25% capacity.
Right.
So they're not doing fast passes or anything like that. So you don't need to. The maximum waits on rides is like 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
That's awesome. I want to hear a full report when you get back because I'm actually curious about Disneyland because my he's going to be 4 in September. I'm going to take him eventually once this pandemic.
I would wait to take, at 4, it's one of those things like, usually it's one of those things that parents, want to take them so early. But I think at 4, it's like, I don't know. Like, I think Disneyland's great when they get to about 6 or 7. Because then they could really, really experience it, really understand what's going on, right? Like,
it's more for me, right? I want to go on the rides. That's what.
Okay. If that's the case,
No, you're right though. But also, like, you get all the Disney characters and stuff. Like, that's kind of cool. And you got Universal Studios. Like, I'll tell you how old I am. When I went to Disneyland and the Universal Studios, they still had the Backdraft thing. Remember that movie, Backdraft with the fireman?
Yeah. That's Universal Studios, though, I think, right?
Yeah, no, it is. I was just saying, like, that's how old that's how long ago I was at Disneyland as well. So there you go.
Dating yourself, James.
I know, but I was a youngster. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. You'll appreciate this. So my dad, pretty hard nosed guy. I love my dad. People ask why I work so hard. It's because my dad. He taught me all hard work and stuff. So my dad, my sister and I were, they had like a buffet there at Universal Studios. You can eat whatever you want. And I'm like, oh my god, and my eyes are obviously bigger than my stomach, and so I'm getting all this stuff. My dad says, look, you can get this stuff, but you have to eat everything. And if you don't, you have to pay me back. So I think we both? No, I almost finished. My sister just like gave up halfway through. So she had to pay my dad. But I think it was on like the last little bit. And then I started getting sick and I was like, okay, I'm tapping out. We're done. But that's good parenting right there. She teaches the kids the value of money and also the value
101 right there, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Not taking that out as well. All right. Well, that does it here for today. Again, we'll be back next week, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m.
And we will have a guest next week.
We will have a guest next week. Yeah. Just, it happens. Andrea, busy, obviously a lot going on with her big win. You can follow Jim on Twitter at Jim West Gold, J West Gold. I don't want to find it here.
I think it's Twitter. I think it's just J West Gold. 15.
J West Gold 15, because 15 was your baseball number, right?
Yeah. Instagram, I think is Jim_West_Gold.
At Lynch on Sports, I got a lot going on. Tons of interviews. Talked to Yuri Prohaska on Sunday. Talked to Edson Barbosa today. Talked to Jairzinho Rosenstruik yesterday. A lot going on in the world of MMA. So make sure you follow me there. I work for a million outlets, so it's just easier to follow my interviews on there. What else do I got going on? And I'm going golfing on Sunday at Twassen Springs, which is like a super nice course where I live. So I'll tell you how that went on Sunday. I'm golfing with Jeremy Brand, who owns MMA Sucka. Him and I actually work for him a little bit.
We still need to hit the links.
Yeah, we will. Listen, when this, I was telling Amanda this, our producer. So once the borders open up, I will definitely be making a California trip or something. I got to do some business and do some content and all that. I'll be coming up.
We'll definitely dictator over there. Talk to your dictator
Trudeau,
over there.
Who got busted today using a fake laptop. Did you see that story?
Such a jerk.
Yes, don't get me wrong. All right, good time to end the show. For myself, Jim West, our producer Amanda, who does an amazing job behind the scenes. We will see you next week. This has been another episode of Victory Loves Company. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you next week.